How are we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here. Welcome back to another video. So it's been a little while since I've done some YouTube content, but I want to get back into the swing of things now that the expansion's been out, well, I mean, to everybody, about a week, 10 days at max. I've been having an absolute blast with this. The professions have been really fun. When the auction house works, that is. The auction house has had some real problems. We'll probably talk about that a little bit in a minute. But I wanted to take a little bit of time now to go through some of my characters and some of the progressions and some of the professions and some of the choices I've made with them. Now, of course, it's impossible for me to play every single spec in the game. So some of these videos are going to be more related to you than others. But today we're going to have a little bit of a look at jewel crafting. Jewel crafting has been pretty fun for me. Long-time viewers of the channel will understand that jewel crafting has always been a main profession for me. It's one I've always ranked very highly. And this expansion, it appears as if it's going to be just as competitive in the gold making scene, which is fun. I have gone the prospecting route. I was very tempted to completely hold back and not do anything with jewel crafting and just level it up and not spend any spec points until the season launches and then just kind of see what happens. Mostly because in Dragonflight the elemental lariat turned up out of nowhere, and the people who were then able to quickly spec into crafting those necklaces made out like absolute bandits. But I'm going to go with the assumption that lightning won't strike twice on that. And a little bit like a child that gets a bunch of money at Christmas, it was burning a hole in my pocket and I had to spend my knowledge points. So I went away and I did spend them. I have gone into the prospecting route and I'll give you a bit of an overview of what I've done and why I may have done it. You may have chosen to do something slightly different. And I would point out that if you just copy my build verbatim, if you copy my build point for point, you will also need to have done absolutely everything else I've also done to be able to compete, exactly with me. So it is often best for people to spread their builds out a little bit, go in different directions. But I'll talk about the options I chose and why I did it. Firstly, you've got to get down to this part of the shaping tree. The shaping tree is your big tree for prospecting. Prospecting and crushing, I should point out. Those two sort of have a lot of synergy. And so I went into gem finding first, and I thought, well, if we're going to put points in here, we better fill it out pretty quickly. This is going to give you skill walls crushing. It also unlocks the gem choices, the coloured gem choices. I went Onyx and I went Ruby. This was because this gives me the ability to prospect a Kyrite and do it in the most efficient way possible. The outer two gems are more focused for when you're prospecting Iron Claw, or it converts some of the ambers that you get, and it gives you a chance to convert them into the rarer gems. When you have 20, 20, and 40 here, you're actually at the point where when you go prospecting, you don't get any ambers anymore. If you are, that is of course to say if you're prospecting the right ore, if you're prospecting a Kyrite or if you're prospecting Iron Claw ore. Once you've got these fully maxed out, you actually will completely stop getting ambers, which is an interesting design choice. I kind of saw this from some preliminary testing on the beta. It might make the market for ambers quite an interesting one. You can go as far as to get ambers, but then you have to do some crushing. You have to take your crushed stone and you have to prospect it again. I bet I don't have any on me, do I, right now? I've got a little bit here. You can take your crushed pebbles and you can then prospect those down at a rate of, I think it is 5 pebbles to 1 amber if you need some ambers for some other stuff. You do probably choose to do that second tier level of prospecting, mostly based upon the price of both these pebbles and the ambers. Usually, or at least in Dragonflight, pebbles were considered a byproduct, and so people just threw them away. They didn't want to spend extra time prospecting the pebbles further to get ambers. And I've already noticed that the prices on these two materials are so close that it's kind of not necessarily worth you doing that extra stage, even at this point in the expansion. Prospecting, I should point out, is hyper competitive. Huge amounts of people try and pick this up, and it's for good reason, because it's a very maths heavy, it's very RNG to a lot of players. You've got to do prospecting on a really big scale. If you're not prospecting 5, 10, 15, 20,000 of a type of ore, you're probably not going to get to those mathematical averages for your actual yield. When you are prospecting, what gems do you get? How many gems of them do you get? Once you've done it enough, you start to notice patterns, and if you are cautious about how you do it, you track your data as well, and then you can use that data to sort of try and guesstimate what you might get in the future. This is the area of prospecting for me so far where I'm actually significantly lacking. I don't really have any data. I'm kind of doing this by intuition a little bit at the moment. This is probably not the best way to do it because it means I can't react to market prices. But of course, prospecting tens of thousands of ore takes time, and it also takes a lot of gold at a period where the prices are super duper mega volatile. So I'm taking it slowly with prospecting so far. Crushing, on the other hand, has been an interesting one. Crushing gives you the ability to, if you so choose, crushing is mostly going to be beneficial for if you want to get this crushed gemstones, by the way. You as a prospector don't really have much need for this, but the gem crafters out there are going to need crushed gemstones in just outrageous quantities. Once the season launches, once people look at getting some gear and then looking at gemming that gear, we could see an absolute explosion in the price of the gems. Now, of course, I don't actually have many of them, but like you can quickly notice that when you are looking at making gems, the gem, sure, you need 4 of them. You need 4 of the raw gems to cut one. But the 30 crushed gemstones per item is going to be pretty significant, I think. This feels to me like an awful lot of a material. And I tend to think that the price of this will heavily dictate what the price of your actual cuts are, way more than the price of a few of the rare gems. The rare gems will be easy to come by. They'll be stacked pretty cheaply, I imagine. It'll be these crushed gemstones that will be the big money, I reckon. That's my theory with this, at least, which is why I've done some prospecting, and I've not been too overzealous in selling mine. I don't mind if I sit on it for a little bit. I'm happy to see where the market goes on that one. But yeah, jewel crafting has been fun. If you are looking to spend your artisan's acuity and you are looking to decide, do you get your profession gear, do you buy your knowledge books first? If you have the gold and you have the time and you have the effort and you have the desire, you can technically do both, but doing both is not very cheap. It cost me probably 2 million gold, I think it was, to get the artisan's acuity to be able to do both. But I would probably suggest if you're going purely the prospecting route, you might want to look at spending it on the knowledge books first. Your tools don't impact you anywhere near as much when it comes to actually prospecting, because as you can see, there's no skill requirement with prospecting. When you do choose something, the only benefit you're gaining is resourcefulness. Your ability to get your points in this tree and do it quickly is crucial. Until you've got sort of at least 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, I think 90 points. Until you've got 90 points, your prospecting numbers are going to be very different to somebody else's. So I would sort of say if you're going purely prospecting, maybe getting your knowledge point books first is the smarter play. But if you want to do crushing, you are going to need these. Crushing, if you are going to look to try and get this quality 3 gem dust, crushing is going to require you to have these 3 blue tools, or the 100 plus 40 build, as I'm calling it. 100 points in your profession and 40 skill points from your tools. If you can get the 100 plus 40, you should be able to start guaranteeing quality 3 gemstones, making them at a theoretically profitable point. I'm yet to make a huge amount of gold with prospecting. I've had quite a lot of early costs, as I've mentioned, but as it stands so far, it's looking to be a fun, a bit of a time sink. We're going to stand there for a long time prospecting through ores. I haven't quite figured out exactly what ores are my favorite ores. I have noticed that there is a step up in yield when you go from quality 1 ore to quality 2 to quality 3. I have not had the cojones to prospect Nullstone yet, but it is technically possible. There's lots of room to move with this, I think, so we'll progress with this a little bit more so in the next few weeks. So yeah, maybe I'll do an update to this in a couple of weeks' time once the season's launched, and we can start to see just how worthwhile it was doing all of this. But I'll leave it there for today, boys and girls. If these little mini-series going over my spec choices and some of my thought process with the professions are useful, please give the video a like, leave some comments down below. And of course, the best way to discuss all of this outside of YouTube is, of course, on the Discord. There'll be a link to that down below as well. Most of this information, I'm going to try and slowly but surely get it into the guide as well. I want to have a massive thank you for everybody that picked up the Goblin Guide to the War Within. I've seen some fantastic success off that even before the expansion is launched. A lot of people have found it very, very useful in the first few weeks. And my promise to you guys is I will do everything in my ability to keep that up to speed with everything that I find. I am one guy, I have one brain, I have one set of hands to do typing, so I will update it as frequently as I can. But of course, this is a big game. This is a big game. It will take me a long time to get to everything, but I will get there eventually. Check that out, link in description if you're interested. But I'll leave it there, boys and girls. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace.